All right, let's do it. So today is Sunday, January 11th. So we, of course, have to do the 11th proverb. So hold on 1 second and we'll get started. Uh, okay. Well, I pulled the wrong book. And I always find Proverbs, by the way, by looking for Psalms because Psalms is a bigger book. So it makes it easier for me to find Proverbs. Proverbs is right after Psalms. And I actually know there's a lot of people that prefer Psalms over Proverbs. For me, my my favorite is definitely Proverbs. Okay, so remember, I'm going to read through everything, and then I'll break down when I break down. So we'll see what's on the docket for today. Contrast the upright and the wicked. Proverbs 11, verse 1. A false balance is an abomination to God, but a just weight is his delight. When pride comes, then comes dishonor. But with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the upright will guide them, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way, but the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them, but the treacherous will be caught by their own greed. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of strong men perishes. The righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked take his place. With his mouth, the godless man destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. When it comes, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is joyful shouting. By the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted. By the mouth of the wicked, it is torn down. He who despises his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding keeps silent. He who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. Where there is no guidance, the people fall, but in abundance of counselors there is victory. He who is guarantor for a stranger will surely suffer for it, but he who hates being a guarantor is secure. A gracious woman attains honor, and ruthless men attain riches. The merciful man does himself good, but the cruel man does himself harm. The wicked earns deceptive wages, but he who sows righteousness gets a true reward. He who is steadfast in righteousness will attain to life, and he who pursues evil will bring about his own death. The perverse in heart are an abomination to God, but the blameless in their walk are his delight. Assuredly, the evil man will not go unpunished, but the descendants of the righteous will be delivered. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is one who scatters and yet increases all the more, and there is one who withholds what is justly due, and yet it results only in want. The generous man will be prosperous, and he who waters will himself be watered. He who withholds grain, the people will curse him, but blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. He who diligently seeks good seeks favor, but he who seeks evil, evil will come to him. He who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like the green leaf. He who troubles his own house will inherit wind, and the foolish will be servant to the wise hearted. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who is wise wins souls. If the if the righteous will be rewarded in the earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? All right. So I had a whole lot of thoughts as I read through that. So let's see if I can remember them all. And there's always so many great examples, but But remember, uh, Jesus taught through parables because stories are what makes points. And I've done Bible study with enough people to know that a lot of people do not understand the Bible. They do not understand Proverbs. I asked them, what do you think this means? And unfortunately, the answer I hear most often, even though it's so blatant to me, is I don't know what it means. So I had some great stories and examples shooting through my mind as I was reading. So hopefully I can remember them because there was a bunch of good ones. All right, where do we want to start? Okay, first one. A false balance is an abomination to God, but a just weight is his delight. So what does this mean? What does this mean? It's cheating. People who tip the scales. As you can see, I'm a big sports fan. The Pats start in 15 minutes. So we'll see how long this session is going to go. But I have a big problem with betting in sports right now being so popular because it's starting to affect the game. There's already head coaches and players getting caught up and they've already been arrested for cheating. They were tipping the scales. They were putting their fingers on the scale. Did you ever hear about the butcher that puts his fingers down just a little bit harder so they could get more money for the meat? You see, that butcher thinks he's cheating. That butcher thinks he's cheating someone else. But who's he really cheating? He's cheating himself. Um, Everything we do is accounted for. I believe this at least. I believe this at least. And it sets us up to be on the outside looking in. And obviously I'm thinking about this a lot because I actually just did it. I did, if you saw my picture for this YouTube, the thumbnail, I now have my Jesus statue right here. My Jesus statue is my new, it's going to be my consistent. It's going to be Jesus and then the number of whatever proverb it is for that day. So I took all 31. And so anyway, I'm thinking about this, but let's go back to the scale in regards to this proverb. So in the banquet, the parable that Jesus talks about, he says, listen, stop sinning now. You do not want to come to the banquet late because you're going to knock and nobody's going to answer the door. And obviously the banquet is heaven. It's the other side of the veil. It's the good place. And so we cheat ourselves. Imagine being on the outside looking in when we get to the other side. What if this time in history is some special time where we could, move ahead or be stuck in the dark ages for, a long time. So when people cheat, when they lie, when they steal, when they put their fingers on the weight to get more money for the meat, like I was talking about with the butcher, it doesn't cheat the other person. It does cheat the other person, but the biggest person it cheats is us if we do things like this. So let's try to avoid that. When pride comes, then comes dishonor, but with the humble is wisdom. So I have a friend, Kathy, who loves astrology. Not like the type of astrology that most people get excited about. She's made it into an art. But anyway, she always told me, with a Leo, because I was born in August, she said the thing about Leos is you need to be humble or you're going to be humiliated. And if you think I'm cocky now, if you think I'm conceited now, you should have seen me before. I've always been confident in who I am, right? So I'm a lot more careful. I'm a lot more careful. Uh, I only if I do talk well about myself, it's only to help make a point that I'm trying to help people with, or say like, look, I can help you here because of this, and this. So uh, I've learned this lesson. I've learned it, and it's true. When pride comes, then comes dishonor, but with the humble is wisdom. So this is something we should all keep working towards. But there's others who are. I wouldn't say they're not too humble. They need to get more confident. So for some of you guys, you need to really work on that. And that, I do another show. I did my first one yesterday, my leadership and sales show. Obviously, I teach a lot of leadership out of the Bible too, but because all of the Proverbs is leadership. Um, but here's what's great is is when you read leadership, when you study the Bible, all this is humbling. It really is. So that just work on ourselves is really the key. The integrity of the upright will guide them, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. So, look, I talked about this yesterday or the day before, whatever. I've been in a ton of bad situations, but I'm still healthy. I'm still in a position to build another business. I've got my health, and yeah, um, I've done my best to do the right thing, and I've walked away from a lot of money a lot of times because it was outside of my code. It was outside of what I thought was right. So, I mean, yeah, it's worked for me. Do the right thing. Feels good, and I do believe that I am grateful for my life. So, and then the second part, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. Now, here's the thing: is it going to destroy them in this life? I've seen a lot of really, really awful people live just great lives that took advantage of other people constantly. So, but it goes back to knocking on the door, right? And they are destroyed if they never get in, if they're ignored and they're left on the other side, the dark side. Yeah, so I would have to agree here. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And this is the same thing, saying exact same point. We can't bring our riches with us. Um, Everything that we're accumulating in this lifetime, everything we're accumulating in this lifetime, it's we don't bring it with us to the other side of the veil. So here's the thing. But right, it's not just righteousness, all of our skills. So when I talk about like really digging in the Bible to build our souls, build ourselves, and digging into leadership, again, that's building ourselves, building our souls. All of that is transferable to the other side. And it really is the real riches. The righteousness of the blameless will smooth his way, but the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. We've already talked about that. That's just reinforcing it. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them, but the treacherous will be caught by their own greed. Again, same points. Um, there's a lot of different reasons that bad people do the things that they do. Greed is certainly towards the top of that list. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of strong men perishes. Yeah, um, I find that there are far too many delusional people. There's way too many delusional people. And I met people that think they're really good, but they do awful, awful things. Um, I remember this girl that was in my life for a long time. We lived together, and she was gorgeous. Of course, she was a model, and she just thought she was such a good person, such a good Christian. And she just treated people so awfully, took advantage of her friends, the guys hovering around, her girlfriends. I never started taking advantage of her family, but just the way she treated people, the way she talked to people, she just thought she was this incredible person. She was deluding herself. So, when it says, when a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, most evil, even evil men, not even bad people, they don't think they're evil. Okay, because remember, there's excuses and justifications for everything in their minds. Doesn't mean it's true. Uh, the righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. I hope so. I haven't seen that very often. With his mouth, the godless man destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. Well, there's another couple verses that are going to get in the same thing, so I'm going to focus on those. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there's joyful shouting. So this is one of them that just like boom hit me with a story. So when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there's joyful shouting. So let's take the second part really quickly. Um, the dictator in Venezuela was just booted, and this guy caused death and destruction. Talk about cheating, murdering, killing, taking advantage of people. He was the worst, not the worst, but he was really, really, really awful. So what's happening all over Venezuela? What's happening with Venezuelans all over the United States, all over the world, in Europe? They're cheering. It's a big party. It's like winning the Super Bowl, only bigger. The people are excited, and then on the other side of it, I want to talk about is by the blessing of the upright. No, no, no. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. So let's act like there's a righteous ruler, somebody that is doing or mostly doing the right thing. It just makes society better. It makes things easier for everybody in the world because there's law and order. And guess what? Criminals do more criminal activities when there's not consequences. And when there's consequences and there's boundaries, I talk about boundaries a lot. When there's consequences and boundaries, the criminals, they don't do a lot of that stuff. So yes, we're happier. Look at El Salvador. Bukele, he arrested, I believe it's approximately 200,000 gangsters, cartel members out of El Salvador, and they're all in prison with no parole. They're gone. So El Salvador went from one of, I think it might have been the worst. Yeah, I think it was rated murder capital of the world multiple times. So Bukele gets rid of all the gang members. They're not allowed to grow back up because the military took them all out. And now El Salvador's thriving. People are opening businesses, and there's not a gangster coming in and saying, "You owe me 50% of your profits from last week, or I'm going to kill your wife, I'm going to kill your kids, and then I'm going to come back next week and I'm going to take 70%." So people's businesses are thriving. Tourism, other people are flooding into El Salvador. Let me tell you, the people have rejoiced. In fact, I had a nurse. I was at the doctor's yesterday or day before, something like that. But she was from El Salvador. And let me tell you, her first husband was murdered by a gang member. And you should have seen the joy on her face when I told her that Bukele is one of my favorite people in the whole world. So yeah, she lived that, and she has a lot of friends that are still there in El Salvador, and they are so grateful that that guy's gone. In fact, she told me, her name's Lorena, that when she flew back last year, and she hadn't been there in like a decade, she said it was a totally different place, safe, everybody smiling, you could walk around the neighborhood. So yeah. So anyway, this hit me hard. Obviously, you're understanding why. Um, by the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked it is torn down. Again, that same concept we just talked about. He who despises his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding keeps silent. Well, this is important because you know there are some things that we need to go step into, that we do need to talk about. If we've got a neighbor that abducted a child and they're keeping them as a slave in the basement, that's a problem. I would say I need to get my butt into that basement and go get that person out of there. So I'd step in there. But I also feel like there's too many places where, whether it's neighbors or friends, where we put our noses where they don't belong. So we got to use discernment. Discernment. And remember, discernment comes from the Holy Spirit. Okay. He who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. Again, this is the discernment. So if there's an important secret that you need to keep, you need to keep it. I need to keep it. We all need to keep it. It just sometimes we need to be loud about things. And obviously, those of you that know me, there's not many people louder than me. But I speak up for the things that I feel are important to everybody, for the greater good. All right. Where there's no guidance, the people fall, but in abundance of counselors, there's victory. So here's the problem. There's too many knuckleheads in the world. And what I have found is I only want counselors that are A players. So Steve Jobs talks about this. In fact, I saw Nick Saban talked about this too. Steve Jobs said that, B, C, and D players all despise A players. Nick Saban said mediocre people hate people like him. And if you don't know Nick Saban is one of the, if not the winningest coach in college football history. Won national championships for LSU and Alabama. Anyway, so that's my problem. When you get a bunch of knuckleheads as your counselors, doesn't matter how many knuckleheads there are, you are going to get no wise counsel. But if you get a bunch of A players on council, a bunch of wise men, yeah, 100%. But this is not just a numbers situation. Okay. This is a big one too. He who is guarantor for a stranger will surely suffer for it, but he who hates being a guarantor is secure. Now, this is so important. Do not sign loans for other people. Don't co-sign for a house. Don't co-sign for a business. Don't co-sign for cars. Don't do it. That is what Proverbs is saying. And this couldn't be more important. I'll give you a story. One of my favorite guys, I never got to meet him, but I was mentored by somebody that was extremely close to him. I always forget, but one of them married the other's ex-wife. And then one of them was raising, oh, yes. Jerry married Jim's ex-wife. So Jerry raised Jim Rohn's kids. Okay. So anyway, Jim Rohn tells a story, and it's an important one. So listen up. He finds a company. He likes them. He thinks they're doing great, but they're in a pinch. They need some money. He's got access to money. So he co-signs a bank loan for them, a big one, big. And he tells them, I'm only doing this once. I'm not doing it again. And then they do better. And then a couple years later, the company starts struggling again. And what Jim is expecting is that he's going to get another call and the company's going to ask him to co-sign on a loan again. But he'd already decided, I'm not going to do it. I don't think they're going to make it this time. Well, here's the problem. That company went back to the bank and they were able to get a loan based on the previous loan that was already paid off, opened up a new loan, wasn't paid. Guess who got called to pay back the whole thing? Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn. He was trying to do the right thing, but it killed him. And I've seen this so often with cars and houses as well. So just remember, Proverbs is telling us, do not co-sign. And if you're going to co-sign like for a business, make sure you're getting a big piece of the business. Contract in writing, 40%, whatever. So it's your loan for your company. That's what I'm saying. Okay. A gracious woman attains honor and ruthless men attain riches. Yeah, and there's not enough gracious women, first of all. Second of all, ruthless men attain riches. Yes. Again, those people that lie, cheat, and steal, they have a big advantage in the business world. The merciful man does himself good, but the cruel man does himself harm. We already talked about this. Merciful man does himself good. But remember, we've got to use discernment on that mercy. We've got to use discernment. Every situation is not the same. It's not. Listen to that calling within, like, what do I do here? Because we can give mercy. We can give mercy ourselves, but sometimes when we go back into someone's life, that could be trouble. So listen to your intuition. The wicked earns deceptive wages, but he who sows righteousness gets a true reward. We already talked about it. He who is steadfast in righteousness will attain life, and he who pursues evil will bring about his own death. We already talked about that. The perverse in heart are an abomination to God, but the blameless in their walk is his delight. Again, just doing the right thing. We already talked about it today. Assuredly, the evil man will not go unpunished, but the descendants of the righteous will be delivered. So again, maybe they don't go unpunished in this life, but they do on the other side, hopefully. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. Again, I couldn't agree more. Is yeah, you see these just gorgeous girls, and why do they feel the need to cheat on their husband or cheat on their boyfriends? And so chaos, in the background. There's no reason for that. So yeah, that's great if they, the beautiful face, but that's not what's important. Okay, the desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. We already talked about it. There's one who scatters and yet increases all the more, and there's one who withholds what is justly due, and yet it results only in want. Increases. We're gonna have to. We're not doing it today because the Patriots game's about to start. But we're gonna dive into this because I need to see some other versions of this text to make sense of what this says. Okay, the generous man will be prosperous, and he who waters will himself be watered. Yeah, we got to give. We got to give back. Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about this all the time. I would say it's the number one thing that he talks about. He says, I would have never got to where I got to without a whole lot of help. And his number one thing is to give back and give back and give back and give back. And he wrote a whole book about it. And I agree. We've got to give when we're called to give, but also there's a lot of takers out there that are not, that we don't need to be giving to. So again, use our discernment. And then watering ourselves, again, that comes down to, getting our table, having all of our legs stable, building the pillar granite legs, um, being close to God, developing it's watering ourselves. What's keeping us going. We definitely want to do that. He who withholds grain, the people will curse him, but blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. Yeah, again, if we can help others and we're called to help, we've got to do it. He who diligently seeks good seeks favor, but he who seeks evil, evil will come to him. We've talked about it. Again, this is next other side of the veil situation. He who trusts, but a lot of times it comes back to them in this life too. He who trusts in riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like the great leaf. Again, we already talked about this. The true gifts are not, the materials, right? It's what we're building within ourselves. He who troubles his house will inherit wind, and the foolish will be servant to the wise hearted. Oh dear, I wish this was true. Maybe down the line. Okay, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who is wise wins souls. Yeah, like the people that are doing the right thing and have worked to do the right thing and studied, and then the fruit, giving it to others constantly. It's the biggest blessing in the world. And yes, the righteous win souls, the wise win souls when people go all out to get this down. If the righteous will be rewarded in the earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? Again, this comes down to knocking on the door of the banquet. There's going to be those on one side and those on the other. All right, everybody. Well, I've kept up with the Proverbs every day. Like I said, I'm not committing to it, but I'm going to do my best based on how much energy I have. So, yeah, I'm going to call it. All right. Well, thank you for joining in with me on this Sunday, and you take care. Bye now.